Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Austin here with commentary number 6, StarCraft 2, of course. And so, this is some more 1v1 action between myself here at the top left of Shakura's Plateau, Austin, the blue Protoss, and at the top right of Shakura's Plateau is my opponent ManusNigrum. So I'll just call him Manus for the simpler pronunciation. And so both players, of course, getting off to the usual starts, and I'd just like to give it a bit of an introduction. I am sorry for the repetition of my own replays. I have, of course, not received any. Please check the description and send any notable replays you do have, or any normal replays, just a general game. I can give you some tips on your gameplay. Or third perspective, and so, or second perspective, actually. And so, any replays, really, I do not mind. Otherwise, I'll just have to keep showing my own, and so I'll try to keep my own replays as though I didn't play in the match, so as just a commentary instead of a historic documentary. And so prior to this game, I had uploaded video number 3, after which Hesperide told me that my chrono boosting micro and pro production could be improved. And so I took into account that for this game, and as you can see, I'm chrono boosting at every possible opportunity. So here is the scouts crossing one another. No, I'm going for I'm scouting the bottom left, and my opponent is scouting at exactly across from him, which is quite correct. And so neither player. Oh, here's a neat strategy from Manus. He's got the barracks near his command center and the supply depot out near his ramp. So immediately, what you will think upon seeing something akin to this is cheese or something out of the ordinary, that is for sure. And so I do have an opinion on cheesing. I believe that to a certain degree I'm okay with it. I'm not entirely against it. I believe it's just bending the box, the proverbial box that cheesers think outside of. But cannon rushing does get repetitive. It's just it's a nuisance. But if somebody, if you ever watch Namshir, he has a very creative way of going straight to cloak banshees without opponents ever knowing it, and I found that to be quite intriguing. But if it's just a basic cannon rush, that's not really outside of the box. That's just flat out cheap play, taking advantage of just your race's technology and just exploiting it, essentially. And so here I'm just chasing his scout around the map as I get my pylon and cybernetics core on time, and I go and scout his main with my normal probe, and this cybernetics lands, and immediately I go to warp gates, and oh geez, I did not get the name bar up, which is quite a blunder. I do apologize. Oh, sorry. P, is it? Oh, no. Oh, that paused the game. Jeez. Quite the amount of blunders. I am sorry, I'm quite tired. So I do hope that did not impair too much. It's early in the game, so hopefully it made a difference. So here is the proxy barracks coming from Manus. And so, again, I do apologize for the lack of the tabs. I just completely slipped my mind. I'm quite tired, but definitely in the mood for a commentary. Just not in the mood for setting everything up. So I take out the scout marine there with just a zealot of mine as the second gate lands, and at this point, no robo yet, and double gas for myself, and for my opponent, just a single gas, and he is just finishing the proxy barracks with one marine sitting at my natural location. And here is the barracks completing, and orbital completing as well. Oh, building. And here is another barracks, so 3 barracks, a reactor on the first one, so clearly we can predict more reactors. Yes, we can. So second reactor, third barracks finishing. We'll have to see if that one gets reactored as well. And so here is my third and fourth gates warping in, and so this is a traditional 4-gate early pressure opener, clearly. And if you look at the supply tab here, 30 for me and 13 for Manus, and so I find we could look at resources, or the tab that does include income. There we go, 22 to 11, 22 to 12. So I do have a tip, Manus. If you are to go for a proxy barracks cheese, I'm not a Terran, but I would recommend more SCVs just for that early boost. He does have an excess of minerals, however, and the reactor marines are not very expensive, so here's just a 3 supply depot wall, and this third barracks lifting off and going elsewhere. And so bunker placed out at my natural location as I warp in several units and build a forge. And so if you look at the supply once more, 24 harvesters to my opponent's 12, so I have I'm a lot better off with income. And for once, thanks to Hesperide's helpful advice, I'm able to make use of all 4 warp gates at a time instead of just 1 or 2 as you'd seen in previous games. So thank you, Hesperide, for the chrono boost tip, as I'm doing there, and the probe tip. And so we will return to the production tab, or better yet, army. And so sorry, I was expecting more. I'm still not familiar with my tabs. It's essentially what is shown here. And so production, I have weapons level 1 and a stalker warping in. My opponent is finishing a second bunker, and not sure what this proxy barracks, not even a proxy barracks, just what this random barracks is doing floating. I have no idea. And so here is some push action from myself as my opponent attempts to hold in these 2 bunkers. Does not do too well though. One of them quickly going down and the other one going down, and this is the proper use of going down, as my opponent's marines are quickly massacred by my stalker sentry zealot army. And so at this point, weapons level 1 halfway and 4 marines coming out of my opponent's barracks. And these 2 will quickly fall, and the barracks to be lifted off. Reactor taken out to prevent future proxies. And at this point I was quite surprised, actually. I will give you my point of view from that perspective. I was quite intrigued. I'm not used to turn cheesing. Mostly, actually probably a good 90% Protoss have cheesed. And so instead of going for the barracks push, I opt instead for a full out push. And 46 to 23 supply, so as you can see, just double supply for my army. And that makes such a huge difference in battles like this. Stalkers, of course, outpacing the zealots, so not exactly the best micromanagement, but at this point, my opponent only has this ball of some 10 marines, growing to about 10 marines in total. And so here are the stalkers, upgraded with weapons level 1 and ground armor level 1, researching at the forge. And here's another gateway, so just a late game transition to a 5th gate and possibly another, and there's that barracks finishing off. And so my opponent at this point, his marines are massacred by these 1-0 zealots, and the barracks was landed there. And so I'm not sure if that was put to use or not, but here's another barracks finishing for my opponent, but it is quite late as his engineering bay is here, but I do not believe has researched anything. No, it has not. So that was a quite useless engineering bay, and I apologize for this message here. It's just a friend of mine, unaware that I am in the middle of commentary. And so my opponent's just running his SCVs away to a better future as my zealot pursues them quite persistently. And so here he is lifting off the majority of his base as 7 supply remaining, and so I focus fire on just multiple buildings of his. And this engineering bay will go down, and the SCVs attempting to escape narrowly from the grasps of my Protoss forces. And there finally is the GG from Manus, and that will conclude the game, the replay itself. And so I will try to condense my commentary, as it is a short game. I do not want to make it a 16-minute video for just an 11-minute game. I find that's overextending things. And so simply enough, as you were able to see from the start, my 4-gate early pressure. Thank you, Hesperide, for... He did not suggest the strategy, actually. It was Husky StarCraft. I watched a video. I was on an 8-game losing streak entering this. Yes, believe it or not, in mid-silver. I was on an 8-game losing streak, and I realized that I need to switch things up from 3-gate Robo and Chargewad Archon, partially because certain friends of mine that I play against do know that is my traditional strategy as a result of my commentary, so it is also fun to change it up against friends, but mostly because going back to the basics can often teach you how to transition into more advanced strategies and adapt and just work on macro in general. And so I felt that this 4-gate early pressure, it wasn't necessarily early pressure, just early an early push at the, I'm not sure when that was, probably about the 7-8 minute, I would assume, 9 minutes, something of the sort. And just generally it worked. However, had I tried just a 3-gate Robo, my opponent could have easily destroyed my forces, as generally 3-gate Robo is expensive, and you have a vulnerable point wherein at about the 8-minute mark where your opponent can just put enough pressure and take you out if he times things right. And so that strategy does have that vulnerability, and I usually am at a loss for minerals, but in this game, thanks to Hesperide's comments this time, sorry for the excess of I'm not sure why I'm up to the habit, but Hesperide did suggest probe yet again, and so Hesperide did suggest probe production in more excess, and chrono boost micro, and so essentially chrono boosting the proper buildings, cybernetics core as usual, and chrono boosting the nexus as soon as such as possible, which I did do. And I did not chrono boost though at this point 100 energy, so not very smart late gameplay for me. And so that does conclude this commentary. I do hope it was acceptably good. Short in comparison to others, but sweet indeed. And so my tips for myself really is just to improve general scouting and to be able to understand that it is a cheese. At first I did not realize, as I said, I'm not used to tearing cheeses, so when I saw the barracks near his command center, I just figured it was not even sure, something to mislead me, or he perhaps lift the barracks off and place it at the supply depots, or perhaps even, I did not think this, but in retrospect, he could have had a factory that was just moving over here to assume the place, but then again there would have been a second supply depot, so that is unlikely. But nonetheless, my commentary, my advice for Manus is just to scout a little better on your opponent's strategy, and if you are going for the cheese, have a little more of an early game supply that will assist in recovering and being able to mass up more barracks with reactors and be able to generate many more marines at one time. So anyway, this does conclude my commentary. Thank you very much for tuning into episode number 6. Please do send in your videos if you are willing. Absolutely, I would appreciate that. And so, thank you very much for tuning in. I will see you all next time.